Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm just bringing you this astrology report on Libra season. Of course, the sun has now ingressed into the sign of Libra. This happened 22 hours and 26 minutes after the new moon in Virgo, second new moon in Virgo with the eclipse. So very, very short time in between. And of course, the sun in Libra brought with it equinox energy. So whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, we've had the equinox as well. So I wanted to just bring you this astrology report and show you the chart for the moment that the sun ingressed into the sign of Libra, because I believe it sets a bit of a theme for this zodiac season. Now, of course, astrology is always the bigger picture. I say there's many layers to it, and each day the planets are going to move. They're going to make different aspects with each other and the asteroids. But it sets a theme, okay? So we'll just look at it with a view to seeing what messages come through. And I just found it very pivotal to be happening this soon after the new moon in Virgo, because the second new moon in Virgo that we've just had with the eclipse was at 29 degrees. So closing out a cycle. And the first new moon in Virgo, which I've spoken about before on here, was at 0 degrees. So that is the beginning and end of a cycle when it comes to planetary degrees or planetary body degrees. It was the moon, so in that case, a luminary. But 29 is the final anaretic degree. So it was absolutely all about a cycle within a cycle. And I also refer to it as being a pocket portal of energy because of the eclipses. So we're now the other side of that. How does it feel? Do you feel liberated? Do you feel that you have more clarity in relation to what you need to close out? If you're vibing with that, of course, you're going to know it will resonate with you, because Neptune has been lifting the veil. Saturn is back in Pisces now. So, of course, we've got to get back in alignment with our spiritual truth. Have we learned those lessons? What's going on? Let's come from a place of spiritual integrity. So it's clear to us. And these new moons that we've had in Virgo, because we've had two, the full moon in Pisces in the middle with the eclipse, and then, of course, the recent eclipse we've just had, heightening energy of activation and awakening and illumination. Okay, now, I mentioned the word illumination. It's not very illuminated here. Apologies for the lighting. It's not so great. I'm in Italy at the moment, and apologies, I have got an extra light on here, but it's not giving much. It's better than it was without it, but I've kind of got the main light and then this other light. So apologies, the lighting is not perfect, but we're going to go with it anyway, because it's all about the content and not about how it looks. So I'm going to pull up the chart and let's dive into it. Okay, and I'll try and make it as brief as possible. And as I said before, you'll be feeling the energy. If you've been attuned to the new moon energy, the eclipse portal, that heightened energy that we've been seeing, and especially with Saturn and Neptune doing their thing. So, and that's continuing, of course, that is continuing. So let's dive in. Bear with me whilst I pull up the chart. And it is rather hot here as well. So I haven't got the air conditioning on, because that will just make too much of a background noise. So bear with me a second whilst I find the chart that we need. Okay, oops, there we go. All right, so as you can see, this is a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time the sun ingressed into the sign of Libra. And you can see at the top, I've put equinox as well, because it marked the equinox. Now, the sun made its ingress into Libra at 7:20 p.m. on the 22nd of September, British summertime. Okay, so this is based on UK time. Apply your own time zones as appropriate. And what's very interesting, and I say this quite a bit, when we've got the start of a new zodiac cycle, the sun is, of course, moving into that new sign. But that can happen at any time, okay, because we're dealing with astrological events. We're not dealing with a man-made calendar. Plus, think about it, we have a leap year every 4 years, so the dates are naturally going to change, okay? The reason I say this is, any Librans out there that have their birthday today, 22nd of September, and I have a friend that has a birthday today, in fact, so happy birthday. It might be that you're a Virgo and you have your birthday on the 22nd of September. Both energies would be valid today because the sun, up to the point of this ingress, is still in Virgo. Now, at the time of me recording this, we are in Libra season now, but it's important for you to check your solar return, because it could be that this year your solar return has happened in Virgo, for example, okay? Because it's going to be when the sun returns to the exact degrees and minutes as when you were born. It might be on this day, it might be tomorrow, for example. So it's important to check that if you're interested in finding out your solar return and the themes that could impact you for this upcoming year, okay? So just to bear that in mind, if you're on the cusp point, your solar return can flex each year because of the fact that we're dealing with a man-made calendar. But as far as the cosmos is concerned, we're not. Okay, so there's that little message. So here we have the chart. And you can see I have drawn some things, marked them up on here, and this is what I tend to do. But there's lots more going on, as you can see. I'm just intuitively drawn to certain aspects to show you, okay? Now, the sun over here, you can see 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Libra. And the sun joins Mercury and the moon, because the moon was obviously close by, because we've just seen the exact conjunction for the new moon. So the moon is obviously moving faster, but is still in Libra at this point. So when we think of our emotional home, of course, we want to feel that things are fair and balanced and harmonious. And the sun moving into this sign is also echoing that sentiment on a soul level. We've got the vertex point here, which just indicates that fated, destined moment in a chart. And so it's looking at this next season ahead with a view to divine justice, fairness and reciprocity, equal give and take, balance. Okay. And Mercury is there. So fair, honest communication. Libra is, of course, an air sign, and it's a cardinal air sign. And cardinal means it starts things off. So we can allow this Libra season, fueled by the equinox energy, and of course the new moon in Virgo that we've just had with the eclipse. Okay, so we can be fueled and empowered with this to start things off from a place of fairness and an understanding that we deserve equal give and take and balance in our lives. From a soul perspective, that's what we're striving towards, and certainly at this point, setting the theme for the season from our emotional home. We want to feel that things are fair. Okay, my moon is in Libra, my natal moon is in Libra, and that is very true. There is a feeling, that desire for fairness in situations. Libra also rules the 7th house in astrology, and that pertains to relationships. So we can't talk about Libra without talking about relationships. So this could be activating relationships from a place of fairness and reciprocity. This could be bringing balance back into relationships. This could be restoring harmony in relationships. This could be opening up communication, fair communication in relationships. Okay, so these themes are to bear in mind just with the Libra energy. And it's allowing us to start things off, because it's cardinal energy. So if we're coming from a place of fairness, and that's our desire, that is what is empowering us and driving us to move forward. It's air energy. So I always feel there's movement to air energy, not in the same way with a water sign, but there is that kind of movement. Okay, and it should allow communication to open up. But we know there's a bigger picture, there's always other stuff going on. Opposite sign to Libra is Aries, of course, also a cardinal sign, and that's fire energy. And that is all about the self, okay? Because we've got Aries rules the first house, which is all about the self. And Libra rules the house of relationships with people, places, things. So you've got one aspect of being driven by the self and another aspect of being driven by our relationships. And of course, we want the fairness in our relationships. And we also need to be empowered and motivated from a self perspective as we move forward on our path. The energy in Aries is fairly intense because we've got Neptune there at this 0 degrees point before he retrogrades back into Pisces and joins Saturn, who is just above here, as you can see. So they still remain close. Neptune's lifting the veil, revealing things that have been hidden, revealing things behind the curtain, making us aware of things out there in the world. Things are happening in plain sight if you're awake to them. And it's becoming more and more evident what's going on. Saturn is still testing us from a place of spiritual integrity. Neptune, of course, with Saturn as well, wants to ensure that we have boundaries in place. So through our discoveries and the awakening and the enlightenment to certain things, we need to hold strong with the Aries energy of boundaries throughout all of it, okay? And you could say with past Fortuna there in Aries, that that's where the success for us comes in during this season, by holding ourselves accountable to the Aries energy. And Ceres is their divine feminine asteroid, currently in retrograde. Ceres is all about planting the seeds and allowing us to reap the rewards of our harvest. So if we're doing that from a sovereign place, you know, these are the seeds we are planting because of what we want to grow, and feeling empowered with that. Now, you can see that Ceres is kind of sitting on the arrow there pretty much, but there's not an exact conjunction with the ascendant of the chart. However, the charts, if you'd seen my social media post, you would have noticed that I'd mentioned about the new moon in Virgo with the eclipse that happened yesterday on the 21st for us in the UK. That chart, past Fortuna was in Taurus at that point and formed an exact conjunction, degrees and minutes, with the ascendant of the chart. Now, we look at ascendant, rising signs, when we look at natal chart readings and so on. But I'm also intrigued with that when I look at an event, because it's how the event is showing up for us, or how we perceive the event to be. In this case, it was the new moon. So there was success in our, achievable in our physical reality, Taurus energy, if we can align with what the new moon is wanting us to do. And I mentioned this on social media. Now here we've got Ceres. There's not an exact conjunction, but there is a closeness to it. So Libra season is definitely about aligning with what we are trying to plant for our reality going forward from a sovereign perspective, owning that, holding ourselves accountable to that, and allowing ourselves to show up in the way that we need to. So yes, there's opposition energy between those two signs, but remember, they're both cardinal signs. So we can kickstart things from a sovereign place, driven by the self. And we can also kickstart things by the desires that we have in our relationships. We are being sovereign by putting our foot down and saying, I want this relationship to be fair. I want this relationship to be reciprocal. And so that's coming from a sovereign place, as well as the fairness in our relationships. Okay, and that's how the energy can work together. Now we've got this purple line that is going from the sun up to Vesta in Sagittarius. Okay, and by the way, ignore the house numbers with this chart, because this is just the chart of the event. If I put it against a natal chart, or for example the UK's chart, sometimes I do that for these videos, that gives you more context to the house system, but this is just showing you the event as it is. Okay, so the sun in sextile, which is a harmonious aspect, to Vesta in Sagittarius. Vesta is also divine feminine energy, and notice that Sag also a fire sign. So you've got Ceres in Aries, and then you've got Vesta in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is about the journey, the quest, what we are learning, and what we can also teach, because there's a motivational aspect. From our experiences, we can then educate others, okay, through actions and so on. And Vesta is about the sacred flame within, and pursuing that which sparks that flame within. I attribute Vesta to Goddess Bridget energy, which is foam and hearth, but it's absolutely creator energy. So we want to create things from that place of the sacred flame. And it might be that we are inspired by others who spark that flame within us. Okay, so it can be very inspirational. And with the Sag energy there, absolutely, it can be inspirational, because we could be learning from other people, from situations, and then that sparks the flame within us. So we're then pursuing our passion as a result. So with the sun in Libra in sextile, Vesta in Sag, it's definitely about restoring balance on a soul level by pursuing that which lights us up, and being motivated enough and determined enough to pursue it. Close by is Juno at 27 degrees of Scorpio. So Juno is also divine feminine asteroid, represents love and marriage. So I view her as being love and commitment. And that can be interpreted in different ways. And the way I read Juno is that she can show us commitment aspects, certainly in terms of our path. So our commitment to our path going forward, our commitment to ourselves in relation to our journey, and also soul contracts. Okay, because it depends what aspects are lining up. Now, because there is this closeness with the sextile energy with the sun in Libra, and the sun is soul, essence, and then you've got Juno there, Scorpio, there could also be deep soul contracts being unearthed, Scorpio energy, being transformed, Scorpio energy, because of the need and the desire to restore balance in relationships. Okay, remember, driven by the cardinal energy from the soul. Okay, so that could also be very powerful at this time. And it could be supporting the journey when it comes to pursuing the sacred flame, that which sparks the flame within, restoring balance within soul contracts with whoever that might be. Okay, and even soul contracts with our mission and our purpose, if you look at it like that. So it's however you want to perceive it. But being aware that we need to go deep to discover that with the Scorpio energy, and be open to transformation, because Scorpio is all about death and rebirth energy. It's extremely deep. It's not surface level transformation. Okay. And coming out of that pocket portal of energy with the eclipses and, the cycle within a cycle, major cycle closeouts going on, this is now about unearthing the depth of the soul contracts that can allow you to pursue the sacred flame energy and plant the seeds with the Aries energy of that which you want to follow, because you've closed out cycles that have perhaps inhibited you in the past. Okay? So it's very positive, I would say, in that way. Now, lovely green triangle, I'm going to come on to that in a moment, because the other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that Mars is also starting a new cycle. Mars is now in Scorpio. Mars rules Aries. Okay, it's very masculine energy. And Mars in Aries just wants to get it done. He knows what he wants to get it done. And in Scorpio, there is also this surge of energy of going deep, but the rawness that's attached to that, because Scorpio can be very raw and authentic. So the rawness, the realness, and the tenacity, the drive to get things done and take action is now upon us. Again, coming from that new moon and the pocket portal that preceded it. Major cycle closeouts, and now we can move forward with that tenacity and that drive, the depth to take action where we need to. Okay, so that is extremely positive energy, I would say. Obviously, it is very heightened masculine energy. So if there's going to be any tenseness, that's not even a word, tension, perhaps I was trying to merge two words. If there's going to be any tension, it's going to be with Taurus energy, okay, because that's the opposite sign, or anything that Mars might be in square to, okay. But you know what I will say is it is showing as opposition energy to Chiron in Aries, just because the degrees. So in terms of our healing journey and actually remaining sovereign, that is something that could be tested, because we've got to find that depth of the realness, of the rawness, and the desire for extreme transformation to take action going forward. And that might just test the healing journey in terms of our sovereignty, because we've got to own who we are in order to do that, in order to go deep, in order to be real, authentic, and all of that. Okay, and that takes courage. And you know, of course, Chiron in retrograde at the moment, there is that introspection on healing journey. Feels like Chiron's been in Aries for ages, but this is about healing our sovereignty, because we have got to stand on our own 2 feet, and we've got to move forward in this way, empowered to do so. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the green triangle. Oh, right. So this is showing you a grand trine, but we've got a couple going on here. So the Sun is in trine to Uranus, who is retrograde in Gemini, okay? And then we've also got this link to Pluto and Pallas, okay? So it's kind of like there's 2 grand trines going on. Clearly, this is a grand air trine, because it's connecting the air signs, and the cardinal energy is Libra. So it comes from the soul, the sun energy. Uranus is about change, sudden change, major change, awakenings. Pluto, major transformation. So this new era of Libra season, with that desire to get things in balance, in harmony, for reciprocity, for equal give and take, for divine justice, because we know who we are and we are owning who we are as a sovereign being, allows us to embrace the deep transformation that's needed within situations and the change that is required. But it's driven by the soul's desire for fairness within our relationships, okay? Relationships with people, places, things. So deep transformation in our relationships with people and change. Deep transformation in our relationships with places, so environments that we're connected to. Have we outgrown an area? Do we need to move on? Is change required there? Has change happened and you've needed to adapt to it to bring in the balance? And then, of course, the vague term of relationships with things, because we have relationship with lots of things, projects, jobs, food, our thoughts. Okay, there needs to be an overhaul of our relationships with people, places, things to bring back the balance and the fairness, the justice, to allow the deep transformation. And because Pallas is there, this is about fighting for what we want in our new reality and being strategic about it. Now, Uranus in Gemini, of course, change is required. And often, if we're approaching change, we need to look at something from different perspectives. So let's be open to that, apply some logic as well. But we need to be driven from the soul's desire for fairness and reciprocity. And remember the Aries energy of boundaries. Is this something you're going to tolerate anymore? Is this bringing balance in or not? Does it need to change or not? Okay. And allowing that insight to come forth, because remember, what we're also being tested with at the moment from Saturn and also Neptune, because Neptune is going to be retrograding back into Pisces soon. We're being asked to connect more into our intuition because we've got to get into alignment with our soul's truth. So why are we doing things that are not in alignment with our soul's truth? To please other people, because we've been conditioned to do it, because we think we need to do it, or because we want to do it? Is it in alignment or not? The North Node is in Pisces. That is where we're heading. Okay, the period of time with the North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo, it's about detaching from the past where we've tried to control the outcome of a situation or believe that things have to be or look a certain way. It's about moving forward into the more ethereal realms of surrender and flow, trusting our intuition, discernment, not believing everything you see, not believing everything you hear, trusting your intuition and moving forward in the direction of the ethereal path. And as you do that and you connect more with your intuition, because your intuition will not lie to you, but your mind might. Okay, we need the logic of our mind, 100%. But if we've got fears or self-limiting beliefs on replay because of past trauma, patterns, whatever it might be, well, it's like a protective mechanism. Fight or flight. Okay, so we've got to get more in tune with our intuition so that that's the immediate response. We know intuitively what it is that lights that flame within us. We know intuitively within what's in alignment with our soul's truth and what's not. We know intuitively within what is out of balance and what needs to transform significantly. And as we approach that, the mind might kind of come in and say, oh, but do you really want to do that? You know, trust me, I've been there myself. I've been there myself. So I'm speaking from experience. It's very easy to overthink. Very, very easy to overthink. And there can be many scenarios. And this is where the intuition needs to come forth, because that is your inner compass to guide you forward. Okay. Endings and beginnings has been the theme of this year. I've spoken about it a lot. And we've seen that very recently heightened and activated with the 2 new moons in Virgo, one at 0 degrees and one at 29 degrees. To make that point again, that is a cycle in itself. And right in the middle, a full moon in Pisces with an eclipse. And then Saturn retrograding back into Pisces, it's like major activation, lessons and tests against our spiritual truth, our soul's integrity. And awakening to the truth that we've perhaps suppressed in order for us to pursue our path. This is why it's happening, okay, so that we can acknowledge that, and we can become comfortable with that. But as I say, with Mars also now at 0 degrees of Scorpio at this point of the sun ingressing, you know, that's the soul activation from a fairness and reciprocity, divine justice perspective. And then Mars saying, let's go for it. Let's be raw. Let's be real. You know, let's embody the transformation. Let's do it. You know, that kind of thing. Juno in Scorpio reminding us about being committed to that. Lilith is close by. So yeah, we've got to acknowledge what we deeply desire and allow any shadow aspects, fears, anxieties to come up so that we can acknowledge them, understand what the wisdom is in order to then process, release, heal, whatever we need to do. Okay, it's important that we deal with things that are coming up. And there has been a lot recently because there's been lots of illumination. Okay. So be very proud of yourself for what's been revealed and where you are on your path in terms of the progress that you're making through your own evolution, your soul's journey, because you might not recognize it as progress, but the more you work through the patterns, the lessons of Saturn, putting boundaries in place, making sure you've got rules that are true to you, honoring your integrity, speaking up where you need to, demanding fairness and reciprocity because that's what you are worthy of receiving, and being open to profound transformation as well as pursuing that which sparks the sacred flame energy within you. Okay, so I tried to make that brief. Don't know how brief it was, but there we go. I hope that helps. And apologies, I'm just sort of like perched here on the edge of a bed. So yes, as I say, I believe when I look at the chart for the sun ingressing into a zodiac sign that it sets a tone for this chapter, but there are going to be things that come up. Of course, there's going to be things that come up, and that's going to bring, you know, extra messages. But in terms of a theme, it's definitely about acknowledging that the soul is going to drive forward this desire for fairness and reciprocity and divine justice within relationships with people, places, things. And to restore that balance, we need to acknowledge what cycles need to close out and what cycles or situations need to transform to bring in that balance. Okay, it's discerning the difference. We've had the energy that suggests major cycle closeouts, but that's not to say that a cycle or a situation can't profoundly transform, because by transforming it to bring back the balance naturally closes the old cycle, because it's like, no, it needs to transform, so it's new, the old cycle's closed. But some of you, it's going to resonate for, in terms of, if I can get my words correct, for some of you, it's going to mean that it is about a cycle close out, like fully, to step into the new. Okay, so it's whatever resonates, if anything at all, because it might not resonate for everybody. It depends where you are on your path, on your journey. But the energy is suggesting there is major upheaval within the collective energy. We are shifting into a higher consciousness, and because of that, we are needing to shed what does not serve us. We can't take that old, outdated stuff with us. Okay, it needs to be released. But if it's a profound transformation, depending on what it is, because you're stepping into your sovereign way of being and acknowledging, this is what I want for my life. These are the seeds I'm metaphorically planting. I want to receive divine justice in my situation, balance and fairness, because I'm worthy of that. I'm open to change. I'm open to transformation, but I know in order to do that, I've got to get raw and real with the authenticity of that Scorpio energy to take the action that Mars is wanting us to take. Okay, so hope this finds you well, and I hope you experienced uplifting energy with the equinox, okay, and the fact that we are now in cardinal air energy to move us forward through this next season until we get to Scorpio season, and then we can go deep. Okay, so let's just follow the energy. And of course, if you're looking at the chart against your own natal chart, you're going to see how it plays out for you more specifically. This is general, okay, based on the astrological alignments. But again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, as always. And I'll see you in the next report. Take care.